Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson and Truth Bomb Tony is back. It's been almost a month since we've seen Tony because he had to go and do some personal stuff over in Europe, but he's back. He's probably going to talk a little bit about what he saw in Europe. And we're also going to talk about what's going on here in Australia globally, inflation, probably no doubt talk about property because we've still got that bet on to, I think that's due in June, July. I've got to go back and look at my notes, but I'm sure Tony's got the notes. But Truth Bomb, Tony, great to see you. Welcome back to Australia. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty well. Still a bit jet lagged with the time zone. So my partner's Hungarian and my future mother-in-law fell ill. So Fortress WA would let us out and come back. So spent a couple of weeks in Hungary. Had to keep it quiet due to certain people following me on social media. So I didn't post anything. Oh yeah, it's a long story, but anyway, back at it. For those people that emailed me on the financial course, it's going ahead. I'll be writing that over Easter and we'll launch it. So it'll be one for people to learn about how to go about my business, how to be successful, and one for young adults to develop the right habits. So anyway, that's what's happening. But Hungary, an interesting experience. What they've done is they've set it up well with the Ukrainian refugees. They had tents around the CBD. Queues weren't that long. But what I noticed is when I went shopping that their grocery items are up there with Australia, yet a pensioner in Hungary gets about $200 a month equivalent in Australian dollars. And I just noted that CBD area is in decay. And when Orban won the election, because he's mates with Putin, the EU's going to hold up funds. So I've got to really feel sorry for people in these countries and cities that are going to get absolutely smashed with inflation.
Well, I don't think it's just there, but what do you think? Do you think Europe's in a bit of trouble at the moment? And with that, the euro, do you think that that's going to go through some really tough times? Because inflation is here. It ain't transitory, but it's showing up very quickly over in Europe. Not so much here at the moment. We'll talk, and I want to talk a little bit about inflation because that impacts everything that investors are doing and how they not only grow their wealth, but also protect it in the first instance. So what do you think about Europe? Is it very high inflation? I mean, look, we've obviously got Russia and the Ukraine, which is a tragedy in itself, but that's going to permeate through a lot of Europe and there's going to be some challenges. What do you think?
Oh, I could see that. Obviously, Hungary's economy isn't strong enough, so they just have their foreign, which I divided, by 252. And I mean, it's just going to be an absolute struggle for anyone. You look at what Poland are doing for the Ukrainians. I think Eastern Europe is going to be in a ton of strife. The UK is also going to have their struggles. So I think that, you look at Germany and France, I think it's going to be a worldwide problem, this inflation, and it's not going to go away in a hurry. And I think that, we've been living on this credit binge. People have been able to buy assets with hot air, and suddenly, the money's due, and it's just going to be an absolute ton of pain if families haven't got their balance sheets right and sandbag for disastrous times. Because, look, let's face it, the financial literacy in Australia is extremely low. And I'm sure most people wouldn't know about what they're paying in mortgages and other items. And they're left hanging with a soccer mum SUV that they won't be able to get rid of, that's declining in value, and they're due for a balloon payment. I just think we're being absolutely living in la-la land, and it wouldn't surprise me to see a retrace back to a time like the 70s.
That's a big call, but, you've been saying it for a while, and I think earlier what you said was, Kerry, what COVID did was just put a halt on this I guess, being uncovered, if you like, because governments were printing money hand over fist and handing out, the Christmas presents left, right and centre, saying, well, you have this and you have that. But that's a Band-Aid in the longer term. And in the beginning, Tony, I'll be honest, I was saying, oh, Tony, you're being a doomsdayer and, I'm not quite sure. But I'm kind of starting to see it now that people, as you say, they're not financially literate. They are buying the new SUVs and they're not realising that there are some tough times ahead. Having said all that, having said that inflation, by the way, the inflation that we hear about, for example, the headline inflation rate for the US March quarter was, I think, 8.4%. And talking to Doug Casey recently, he's saying it's more like 15 to 20%. It's not the true inflation numbers. So having said all that, our audience that listens to you and I, they want to know how they can protect and possibly grow, because out of every crisis, there's an opportunity. Wealth doesn't disappear, it changes hands. Do you think that things like investing in commodities with this electric vehicle revolution and some of those commodities, such as the lithium, the nickels, the cobalts, they're very strong price rises at the moment. Can that continue?
Of course they can, but my concern is the share prices have gotten ahead of the fundamentals. I think you've just seen a huge money flow into these sectors, but viewers have got to be mindful is a lot of these companies, all they'll ever produce is brokerage and broken dreams. So some of these emerging producers, those that are producing, are going to do extremely well. But the risk reward now really doesn't stack up, because you just can't say, well, this trend's going to go on and I'm going to continue to make money. That's not the case. So what I've positioned my clients in is zinc with a bit of cobalt. You can always make money out of a solid emerging gold company. Biotechs, there's been a global rout in the biotech sector. We're buying that up. And I think finally, those that are willing to save money might get about 0.5% interest. I think that's coming. So that's a huge return on people's money. But, the real concern, Kerry, is look at over the ditch, 1.5% cash rate now, and we're staring at 0.1. The RBA have snookered themselves. They've got nowhere to go except for up, and up in a hurry. And that's why I maintain my view that the Sydney median house price is going to get cut in half.
Well, I guess I understand what you're saying. It's interesting that you said, 0.5% on your bank rate is good, not when inflation's about 8 to 10% in Australia and 15 to 20% in the US. You're going backwards. We're losing purchasing power, but I think most people that listen to you and I would be aware of that. One of the things you mentioned just then was that there's been a global rout in biotechs and you're buying those up. Why has there been a global rout? What's caused that? And has that caused given an opportunity?
Well, I think sectors can become on the nose quite easily, and selling begets selling. So once you start to see some of the major names get sold off, no one's really interested in a stock that's going to look to treat people with cancer. They'd rather buy a doped up ape, which is an NFT/NFI, or some shitcoin. So the world has gone into this debt binge, I want to get rich quick phase, whereas quality companies, people call dinosaurs, aren't getting much attention. So biotechs take time. They just can't keep bringing out lithium acquisitions when they're looking to treat cholesterol or cancer. So there lies the opportunity. And I liken it to buying beachfront property in Sydney 20 years ago. It's just that on the nose, but helping a disease, potential therapies isn't going to go away. And I just think that just like music always reverts back to guitar, bass and drums, we're going to see a push back to companies with fundamentals and not fugazis.
I love that. I love that word, fugazis. The biotech sector is massive and confusing. What does Tony Locantro look for when investing in biotechs?
Management, number one, I get to know management. I can look them in the eye, normally on a Zoom call, and work out if they're there for the lifestyle or if they're there to make a difference. I look for past successes, past failures, because not every, the default position of a biotech is normally to fail. That's why biotech people have pretty good senses of humour. And I just look at what could get to phase one, what could attract a major, and you've got to look what happened. ResApp, Pfizer have launched a cash bid for ResApp. Who would have thought? So there's a lot to look at, but I liken the risk reward of something that could go 5 to 10 times plus, and on the downside, you lose half your money. It's just like an exploration stock, but to get through the phases, clinical trials, FDA, patents, all takes time. But it's a case where you just like to buy your portfolio and walk away for 2 years or have a trigger to sell it automatically. We just can't keep behind the desk refreshing our phones the whole time. As I said, the world's going to get back to investment and simplicity.
Investment and simplicity, but I want to know, you talked about phase one, phase two, phase three, all the clinical trials, etc. Is there a better time to get into biotechs? Like, is it better to get in at phase one, or is it, that's very risky because we don't know whether or not the actual technology they've got is going to work, the biotech itself. When's a good time to get involved, or is it dependent on each company?
It's a case-by-case basis, but if you find an undervalued opportunity with good management, often they will have clinical readouts before we get into the serious phase one, phase two trials. And it's a case of, do they attract some major funding? Does it become a hot sector of the market? So to me, there's always the right time to buy a quality company is now. Okay. So, you could buy a gold explorer that just drills here and there, doesn't really do much, but you do get that trading range on it. But, my biotech companies, I'm there for hundreds of millions of dollars market cap or a buyout by a major. And that's just pretty much a starter pack for some of these EV companies that could have $200, $300, $400 million caps, and they'll never produce anything. So I think it's all relative. I like to give my clients a portfolio that gives them a bit of biotech, bit of mining, and something that could go out there and provide the Powerball win. Because let's face it, we're in small caps to make a shitload of money, not to play defensive or gutless. You've got to really swing hard, and that's what we do. I've just signed off on our largest contribution to an IPO, $2 million into Marin Metals, because that thing is the most undervalued IPO I've ever seen. So we went hard.
Well, we'll be talking to them. I'll be doing an interview with their managing director very soon, Richard Carlton. So that'll be interesting. Watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. I'll have a chat with Richard about Marin and get his views on where they're going with it. But that's one that you like, Tony. What about in the biotechs? Because that's in copper gold, isn't it? From what I understand, Marin?
It's lead, silver. They've got copper gold, but the real cheesecake could be a mini Cannington at depth. And Cannington produces 6% of the world's silver. So if these grades continue at depth, I just think Marin Metals sadly will get taken out before it can provide the 10 baggers for my clients and my kids. So, it's like a mini Sandfire with most of the discovery already made. And it's one of those rare IPOs that's actually in favour of the shareholder.
Wow.
There's a first for everything, and I look forward to that interview, but I don't think Richard's going to give too much away.
Yeah, I'll see if I can uncover stuff there, Tony. Just back to biotech. Just let me
Yep.
just finish that, wrap that in a bow, if you like. Would you like to share with us any ones that you're particularly looking at the moment, or is that for your subscribers only or your clients?
No, I'm happy to say that I've been buying Radio Farm personally down to 21 cents. This was a 60-cent IPO. Not a
Wow.
few months ago. Yeah. Funds just smashed it into the next postcode. So I've been buying all the way down to get that contract note that will go straight to the pool room. I had a Zoom with management today. Outstanding company. They've picked up a molecule that's looking at solid tumours. They're looking at radio pharmaceuticals and imaging. To me, that's a company that only has to recover to the 60-cent IPO level, and it's a triple. Chimeric's another great
Well,
company.
before you go off on Radio Farm, just let me understand it a little bit. So it's been smashed. Is the technology that they've got with tumours, is it patented technology? Can other people do it, or is this unique to Radio Farm?
Well, it's quite an open space. So they've had someone that's developed. They're actually dealing with the inventor of the latest molecule. So again, it's all about imaging and treating the solid tumours as well, providing therapy. So I think there's plenty of room for everyone. But again, we've got to wait for further information on their latest acquisition. So they said it was too good to pass up. But to me, buying something around a third of where it should be, I just think it's the right way to go. But these stocks will take time to turn around, and I'll probably end up buying 1 million shares by the time it turns around. So that's how you get taken to the next level in spec stocks. It's no good buying something at 20 cents and it sits at 22 forever. Sometimes you need these stocks to halve and then some to really build your holding. But we've been buying the crap out of that. Narada, which I talk about ad infinitum, still waiting to get into the clinic on cholesterol and their TBI drug, which is showing some potential. Exopharm has been asleep. That went to $1, now back to 24 cents. It's just a volatile sector of the market, but it's where the 5 and 10 baggers are, because I think the time for making money on digital tulips and Daft Punk 8 impersonations is over. I think, suddenly people will realise that they've been scammed. And there was there's been some good documentaries on this, and all the Ponzi schemes in the world, because a lot of these investments it's been a breeding ground for criminals.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But one company you just mentioned before but didn't expand on was chimeric.
Yeah. In CAR-T therapy for cancer, was performing extremely well, around 30 cents. Then they went to the market to raise, and it's back at 14.5, 15. It's another Paul Hopper company. They do have platforms for these therapies, looking at, again, treating global blastema and other cancers. So they've made exceptional progress, yet the share price is on its knees, because if you go in a discounted capital raise in this market, you're just going to get smashed up. Yeah. But what I think is that everyone, there's a lot of nervousness around, and once a stock starts to fall, it's like lemmings off a cliff. So, it's just one of those times, I guess, I call it amateur hour, where the inexperienced or the nervous people are dominating the share prices, and that causes people with half a brain to doubt their own holdings. So, we're just in this vicious cycle. But, it's a 40 to 50% off sale, and who doesn't like a sale?
Well, I think it's also important to mention to everyone as well, is there's been a lot of chat about the electric vehicle revolution. So a lot of money has been shifting over into that sort of EV revolution you mentioned earlier, zinc, cobalt, we'll get there in a minute. But I think that's what's happened. I think that everyone's going, well, biotech takes too long. The EV revolution is going gangbusters. The lithium prices are going to the moon. So I think there's just been a shift in sentiment across there, and people are forgetting that actually there are some really interesting stocks in the biotech sector that people have just ignored. So I agree with you. I think they are on sale, but you've got to pick the right ones, and you've got to be careful because these are not things that it takes a while, doesn't it, Tony? It does take a while. As you said, 2 years, walk away. Don't refresh your phone every few minutes.
Well, you've got to put your stock on SRM, which means it's not there on chest, or go to prison for a few years and come out and it's only worth a fortune. So, you know, I'm just trying to teach my clients to learn how to hold on to something, not to become anxious, because, you know, one person wakes up in a bad mood, it triggers chartists and it triggers negativity on social media. So it's all about, the only way really to survive in speculation is to be an investor and not a gambler. But at the moment, the market's heavily in favour of the gamblers. And what we've seen out of what's happened with crypto is, you know, any female with a beauty score 7 or above and an access to a basic charting package has been able to create, they become influencers. So it's just amazing. You know, I mean, you don't have to go on reality TV anymore to become popular on social media. And to me, some of these, you know, it is dangerous when you're following someone that has no experience. But again, sex sells, and good luck to the women doing it.
God, you make me laugh. Tony,
it's the truth. You know,
right at the start, you mentioned zinc and cobalt. Now, lithium, everybody talks lithium, and they've all gone very hysterical on it. They're not really talking about zinc. Why did you mention zinc? What do you like about it? What's going on in that sector?
Well, it's around, it's over $4,000 now.
Yeah.
A ton. It's finally broken out and reached all these levels that some brokers said it would. Now there's new technologies coming out, zinc air batteries, which I'm yet to fully research, but it's looking like a potential alternative. And who really invests in zinc? Zinc's been ugly for so long. And now finally, with these supply shortages, those that are able to get towards production are going to do quite well. Cobalt has its issues. It's a very liquid market. So, yeah, we have another dash for these commodities that are in scarce supply, and the LME levels are quite low. But again, you can still buy into a thematic and lose money, because in early January 2018, a lot of these EV stocks lost between 70 and 80% of their value over time, and sentiment turned to absolute crap. So you just got to be mindful that, you know, there's going to be bumps along the way, and it'll only take a decent correction in the US indices to see that. And, you know, a lot of speculators / gamblers are fair weather friends. So they'll only be involved when prices are going up, but watch them turn on each other when there's a bit of a challenge. So I'd rather be a steady player through these markets and get lucky on some thematics, which is, you know, we've done well on uranium. My clients have cleaned up. We could have a couple of accidental lithium success stories shortly, but I'm just worried that we're getting towards the end of the stupid money, and the only way is down from here, regardless of how long the trend will continue.
All right, we're running out of time. You know me, I'd like to talk about gold. The gold price has steadied a little bit. It's not shooting the lights out. I think as you and I speak today, USD 1972 put a little bit of strength under the gold price. Do you think that there's going to be a bit more interest given inflationary times, a little bit of uncertainty out there, and the volatility? What do you think is going to be happening there?
Well, I know you're holding a gold conference on the 14th and 15th of June in Sydney.
I am, Tony. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes.
Well, I think it's good to get the band back together, meet people in person. But I think it'll be a case of there'll be no bikini models there. There'll be no.
Oh, hang on a minute, Tony. Maybe I'll bring in some bikini. No, joking, ladies and gentlemen. Joking. We are going to give away some gold and silver, but no bikini models that I know of. Tony, you'll be there.
Yeah. But I mean, I have terrible hair, so I shaved it off, right? But the key indicator on precious metals is the male pattern baldness index. So you look at the ratio there and you can tell how close we are to the top. And I can assure people that we're nowhere near there. And, once there's cheerleaders, once we have gold conferences in the Bahamas, Miami, all those places, then we'll know it's time to sell our gold. But, and when a current affair runs stories on single mothers trading gold stocks during the night, whenever, then we're near the top. But, at 1972 or roughly 2,600 Aussie, these companies are spitting real money. So, I think, look, there's always going to be a bandwagon to jump on. So once the EV excitement slows down a bit, there's going to be something else, or we could have 3 to 4 years of being sandpapered to death. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Tony, let's hope it doesn't happen, but it is very volatile times at the moment. People have got to be careful. And as I always say, ladies and gentlemen, you must do your own research. If you want to reach out to Tony, he can be reached at tony@altocapital.com.au. You can reach out to Tony, ask him questions, become a client, whatever. That's not the reason we do these. We do these because Tony and I really enjoy having a chat and trying to help you get a little bit more educated. Don't just watch social media as your tips to get into the market. You've got to do your own research. This is not financial advice. This is something that we just try and open your mind up a little bit. And as Tony said earlier, he's going to be doing a finance course. So if you're interested in that, make sure you reach out to Tony on that one, because I can tell you for a fact, one thing that we don't do in this country is we do not teach our children financial well-being, and we don't teach them about budgeting. Hence, we have a lot of SUVs which are losing value every day, and people don't realise that the pension is not what's going to keep them in the manner that they'd like to become accustomed. So you need to look after your own money. You need to know how to invest and invest wisely in these very volatile times. Tony, the last word goes to you as always.
Well, sandbag your finances because the shit is about to hit the fan, and I guarantee it.
All righty, you heard it there from Truth Bomb Tony. Thanks for joining me, Tony. We will now. You're back from Europe. We will see you in Hungary specifically. We'll see you in a fortnight's time. Thanks so much for joining me on Small Caps today. Cheers, Tony.
Always look forward to it. Thanks, Kerry.